course, you can join us for our long-form conversations that we have with bloggers like Kevin, other broadcasters across college football. The long-form conversations on Stitcher, Podbean, and iTunes. Just search Mark Rogers TV or subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. Kevin, this SEC Eastern Division is crazy. Vanderbilt wins over Kansas State last week. We saw that Florida was this close to going to 0-2, but they pull out the win. So mathematically, that puts them in great position over Tennessee. But in terms of separating the teams, there's no separation between Florida and Tennessee based on quality of play in last week's game. Kentucky gets this big win against South Carolina. Georgia may be the only team that has a chance. They're the only team that I could see possibly separating themselves, but otherwise it looks like a free-for-all.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think right now Georgia may be, a notch or two above everyone else. And then I think Missouri is obviously down at the bottom. But yeah, the other five teams there, I think, from 2 to 6, yeah, you're exactly right. I think there's not much difference between, like I said, I would probably still put Florida right there, a couple notches below Georgia, and then like Kentucky and Tennessee right there. And then you can't forget about Vandy. I mean, what an impressive start they've had. I'm really interested in that game on Saturday. I mean, I don't think they're going to beat Alabama, but I think, they'll probably give them a really good game. I think Derek Mason's doing some really good things down there. And then also the Georgia-Mississippi State game, we saw what Mississippi State did to LSU, last week. So, yeah, I mean, it's weird to think that Kentucky could, if Kentucky wins tomorrow, in some ways they could almost be in a driver's seat towards an SEC. I'm not saying they're going to win the SEC East, but, the next, they have Missouri, who they should beat. And then at that point, they have Eastern Michigan next week, which I wouldn't sleep on, but, because they beat Rutgers a couple weeks ago. They could be 6-0 going into that Mississippi State game. And I really think, they can beat Tennessee this year. I think Georgia is probably, especially because it's down there, I think Georgia is for sure the only game that I don't think Kentucky could win. And, Vanderbilt, depending on what happens with Vanderbilt these next 3 weeks, Vandy is always a tough game, and especially down there. But, yeah, who knows? I mean, we may have this conversation in November, and Vandy could be in first place. They may shock the world. Who knows? But that's what makes college football fun, is to watch, like teams like Kentucky and Vandy who haven't been traditionally as good, who are getting better.
So I'm just checking, Kevin, because you admitted to placing your official pick with South Carolina last week, but you are pulling the trigger on the streak to be ended.
Yes, I am. It's in writing. It's my latest post there. Last word on college football. I've got 24-21 Kentucky. Austin McGinnis with a field goal late in the game to give the Wildcats the lead, and then they may have to hold off Franks again. Hope another last-ditch effort, but I'm going on record 24-21 Kentucky.
Okay, and this record is going to be out there for Mark Stoops to know that if he gets in that situation, unlike Butch Jones, back up the defense.
Yes.
Put that picket fence down near the goal line. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yes, it is. When I watched that, I didn't see the game, that part of the game live, but when I got home, I was out doing something, and I was like, what are you doing? Because you could just, you could see the receiver, just, Cleveland, just, he's like 5 yards ahead of everybody. Like, what were they doing? But yeah, you would hope with Kentucky's secondary that wouldn't happen. So
Felipe Franks has his certainly his faults. He's a young developing quarterback, but we now know that he can fire it 65 yards on the money downfield. So
yeah, and that's
do that.
Yeah, that's one thing. Just from a defensive standpoint, if you look at Kentucky's first 3 games, they've had a tendency to give up big plays. Obviously the Samuel touchdown in the South Carolina game, and there was also big plays, against them in the Eastern game and the Southern Miss game. So that, with Franks' playmaking ability, that's something I think Kentucky's definitely going to have to be, concerned with.
All right, talking Kentucky and Florida coming up Saturday night. Kevin McGuffey from Last Word on College Football helping us break it down. Kevin, we appreciate the time.
Well, thank you, Mark, for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.